Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. In today's video we're going to be looking at the last race of the year. And I can hear you guys say, oh, what do you mean last race of the year? Because you had a race before that. Which is true, but considering we just had a lot of bad luck and the race was just an absolute disaster, the footage isn't really that interesting. Considering we just were struggling with the kingpin most of the time, with it moving around, and that caused very weird behavior in the go-kart, so we didn't really manage to even keep up with the field because of that, because it was just that bad. But either way, this is something I'll cover right before I get into the video, so let's get right into it. So yeah, this is basically the results. You can just really see the go-kart twitching around and just not really doing what it's supposed to, being very unpredictable, even in very high-speed corners, to where it just breaks out or just grips up out of nowhere, and it's just very unpredictable to when it grips. So yeah, let's look at a complete lap with these circumstances. So yeah, due to these circumstances, we pretty much nearly finished last every single race and only had some better positions when other people either had crashes or had issues themselves. So yeah, this was really very bad, and this is something we looked into right before the next race. So the race for Berghem, to where we did a training to see where we stand, and it was even worse, because then when I was braking, the entire go-kart was twitching everywhere, because it's basically trying to correct every single time it basically flips over. And yeah, that was just absolutely terrible. Then we looked into it, and it was apparently due to some plates that weren't stacked up properly, so it didn't really have anything to do with the kingpin, which we initially thought, but it had to do with the spacing in between the part that holds the, what's the best word for the wheel holder, I think is an easier way to explain it, but basically the part that connects the wheel to the steering part. And then between you have little filling rings, and if that doesn't fill up properly, you have enough space, the entire arm can basically move, which basically results in the entire wheel twisting under load, which is very bad. And yeah, this is basically what we found out. Then before the next race we fixed it, but yeah, that basically just sums up the entire situation. And then let's see if it's fixed, and we're going to start off with the qualifying. As you can see, not that bad of a qualifying run. Although we did qualify around P10, so we'll be starting around the middle of the field, which is not really ideal, but in this case we just have to go over it and see what we can make from it. So let's look at the first race. So here we are for the first race of the day, waiting until the flag goes down, considering the lights weren't used in this instance because they weren't working for some reason. But yeah, as you can see, there are quite a bit of go-karts piled up already. In this case we're trying to go around the outside, trying to avoid a lot of chaos on the inside. So we can actually also a guy flying off the track. He actually got hit from the back, which made him fly off, which is very unfortunate, because if you fly off the track on this track, you'll be stuck in the mud, and you're going to be losing a lot of time in a lot of positions. So that's not ideal at all. And in this case, we're just trying to keep up with the go-karts in front. We also changed the setup slightly to make it a bit more aggressive at the front, but we just noticed that even though that, we just weren't able to put a very fast lap down. Could also be due to not having very new rain tires, just quite used one. But even though that, we managed to still overtake someone, which made a mistake in a switchback. And here we actually also make quite a bit of a mistake too, so we didn't take the first curbstone properly, which makes the following sequence of corners very bad. And because of that, another go-kart managed to stay right on inside of us and overtake us into this corner right here, which is very unfortunate. But this guy was also quite fast, and we were also just trying to see and learn and how we can actually improve in these circumstances, so to say. But around this time we were driving around P6, before that P5, so that's still quite good, so to say, considering last time we were around that area was around, was in Assen. And in this case we also get overtaken to this corner, but this was mainly due to my visor having a lot of dirt on it, and I just couldn't see the track properly, so it was very hard to basically see the corners. So you can also see that the sun is very bright in this instance, and that just made it very difficult. Even when the visor was fogged up, it was just fully white. Yeah, we crossed the finish line in P7, so even though that's quite a decent result. Well, not that bad for a first race, although we did get to P5 initially, and we lost out 2 positions. It's still better than the qualifying position, which we had was around P10, going to P7. But I mean, considering the circumstance with the entire visor being covered and not being able to see properly, minimizing the risks and not crashing was something I was focusing on more in this case, to basically just keep our track position. So for that it wasn't too bad, but let's see what we can make of it in the next race. So here we are for the second race of the day, getting right in between the white lines, waiting until the lights go out, which to do now. And here we actually start on the inside, seeing if we can try to do something around here, but as you can see it's just not very easy, and we don't really try to take too many, risks, so to say. And we can actually see that one actually did take quite a risk, but didn't really pay off. And now we're just trying to make sure that we don't really get into any accidents. As you see here, it also gets quite chaotic, seeing if we can benefit from anything, and one guy actually goes very wide, which makes it so we gain 1 position. And now we're just trying to keep up and see if we can move up the field, seeing if we see any opportunities opening up. And especially in the first corner, like this hairpin corner, gives quite a bit of opportunities to be able to overtake. As you hear, there's quite a big pile up. I tried to avoid some people who want to try to do a dive bomb on me, which made me lose a position, but I gained 2 at the same time. Well, actually 1, considering we didn't gain the other position. And here we lose 1 position to the 234 during all of this chaos. But considering we have quite a bit of a good run into these specific corners, we might be able to do something up ahead, especially in this section. And now we are able to get quite a bit closer, seeing what will happen at this time. Here we can actually do 234 going down the inside. We aren't yet able to do this, and we just stay behind for now. And at least try to stay close, seeing if we can do any move further up into the track. And now we're just trying to get into the slipstream, seeing how close we can get pulled, but here we just try to back off slightly, so we can try to get a slingshot out of these corners right here. But considering they had quite a good grip here, so I wasn't really able to get close. But here we just brake significantly later, trying to get into the slipstream, trying to go down the inside, which is quite a slow overtake. But even then we still managed to do it. And now we actually are trying to get further back up to the field and trying to get closer to the 286 in this case. seeing if we can pull a move down here, but here the 286 makes a move on 2 people, while the 288 tries to go down the inside. Here I also try to go down the inside, and I actually managed to do this. So I gain the position that I lost before back, and now we are just trying to at least keep up and move up further in the field. Especially considering the result that we had before wasn't too well due to the visor being fogged up and not really being able to see anything properly, so it would be at least nice to get a better result than the race before that. As here we can see the 288 going down the inside of 286. Here I also try to go down the inside, but I just don't really have the space to do it. So 286 sticks around the outside and manages to defend the position. And here we actually make quite a bit of a mistake. Considering here we try to keep up with the 286, seeing that we actually have quite a bit of overspeed, so we go down the inside, but I didn't really expect it to be very damp on the inside here, which actually makes me lose quite a bit of grip, go very wide, and I didn't even know that they were having a entire train behind me. And what I mean by trains, a whole bunch of go-karts piled together, which basically means that in this mode I don't have any grip due to the damp spot, but they basically managed to just drive around me due to the lack of grip that I have, even push me off the track in this case, is where I get put into the sand and yeah, also a little bit of water. And this basically makes it that we finish all the way on the last position, just because we tried to make one overtake stick, which just wasn't really possible due to a little damp spot on the braking zone, which is extremely unfortunate. Not something that I initially expected, but it is what it is, and let's see if we can make it up in the next race. As you can see, an absolute disaster on the last lap due to a little spot that just had less grip than we initially expected, and then additionally to that, all of the dirt and debris on the outside, which then made it so I even had less grip, and then I just didn't have any grip for at least less than half a lap, which with an entire train behind you is absolutely fatal. You're just gonna lose everything in one go. And that's what we did. But yeah, it happens. It's just a very bad amount of luck, but hopefully we'll be able to recover from this in the next race. So let's look at that. So here we are for the last race of the day, trying to do the same approach as we did before, so trying to go around the outside just in case, considering you never know if someone's going to brake way too late for the first hairpin corner. And actually in these weather circumstances, considering the grip was more predictable, nothing too special happened. But either way, we still try to stick it around the outside to make sure that nothing too bad happens, where we've managed to not lose the position in these circumstances. That's quite good. But as we can see, the pack is quite close to each other, so we might be able to pull off a move here. And then we get very close to the bumper of the 234. So to go down the inside, even picking up some water, but we managed to make it stick and get one position. And here I also opened the visor slightly, because it was starting to fog up a bit, basically meaning that you can't see too much. And we can also see a go-kart in front going quite slow, which actually makes the pack get quite close to each other, which actually makes so I also brake a bit earlier, but nearly get overtaken because of that. Managed to make a switch back, but now I know that he's there. And in this part of the race we were already through more than half of it, so we're getting close to the end of it. And I knew that if I weren't going to defend or make a fight over it, it was just going to be a losing position. So here, for example, I do the switchback again, and I was just telling it like, I'm not gonna let it slide. I'm just gonna fight for it, because yeah, if I'm gonna lose that position, it's just going to mean less points for me. And when you're getting close to the end, it's better to fight for every single position than to basically make it so you lose positions and then have less points at the end of the race. Considering the ones in front already have quite a big gap and we basically drive at the same pace, but this time he does make the overtake and make it stick. But one thing I just did notice that the aluminum rims that the Powerline had a lot more benefits over the ones that I was using. I was using SE magnesiums from Douglas, which actually prevent too much heat buildup, which in these circumstances are just not ideal, because it's very cold and you want the heat to build up. And his rims just had a advantage, which I just learned through this experience, so that's quite good that it happened in my opinion. And here we have another guy in front of us, which actually makes quite a big of a mistake, flies off the track, and I had to avoid him, but because of that I lose 2 positions. And for the people wondering what happened to him, he actually had a similar instance as me, or in a similar situation to where he went off track, picked up some dirt and lost all of the grip, and it's just absolutely sad to happen, because then you're just a sitting duck and people will just overtake you. So yeah, that just sucks hugely. But yeah, we went over the line and managed to put a decent result down. Well, as you can see, the last 2 races just weren't really going my way, which is very unfortunate, but I did learn some very good lessons, especially with the rims, because we were using Douglas SE rims, which are magnesium ones, and if you compare them to the aluminum ones, there is quite a bit of a difference between the ones. Also with the SE, that's quite flexible, so the moment you put pressure on it, it flexes a bit. Basically what it usually would do is it would prevent more heat buildup, so it will be ideal in summer situations, but in situations like this where it's cold, wet, it's not a good choice, and it's better to go for an aluminum rim than it is to go for a magnesium one. But yeah, just because of the entire day, we also had certain broken parts we had to fix on the kart, with the entire floor tray being bent all the way back, and we had to basically hit it all the way back to be able to race again, because it's not safe to drive with a broken floor tray. And we just weren't able to put that much focus on switching the rims, so we tried to minimize the risks for changing stuff and just focus on being able to drive, which it didn't really pay off in the results, but at least we learned quite a bit of stuff and managed to find points where we have to improve. So if I look at that, I would say that it is a win considering the amount of information. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned something too, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Never get old.